We're going to be moving on to presentation of the Vision Zero Annual Report and Bikeway Master Plan, as well as the Pedestrian Master Plan Progress Update. Thank you to our staff, Ahmad Al-Shaifi, as well as City Staff Presenter Brian Barnett-Woods. Welcome and thank you.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I think so. Oh, there. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Hi, good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Brian Barnett-Woods. I'm the City of Rockville Vision Zero Coordinator. I'm also the Pedestrian and Bicycle Coordinator. This is the first time I think that I have had the opportunity to address this Mayor and Council, so I'm excited to do so. So it's nice to meet you all in a meeting. I'm excited to be here, and this evening I'll be giving a brief presentation on Vision Zero and an update on our progress. I'll do my best to be brief so we can have a full discussion. We'll highlight a summary of Vision Zero, some follow-up from last month's fatal pedestrian crash. We'll talk about the Vision Zero action items, progress on the Bikeway and Pedestrian Master Plan, and some of our grants which help us implement those plans. For those who are less familiar, Vision Zero is a transportation safety program. The overarching goal of this program is to continue to work toward eliminating serious injury and fatal crashes. This program is a little different from past transportation safety programs. Firstly, it's about how do we reduce harm in general, recognizing that everyone makes mistakes. It's multimodal. It's for everyone. So people driving, walking, bicycling, using transit, rolling. It's not just a pedestrian and bicycle safety thing. It's for everyone in Rockville. This program is data-driven and looks comprehensively at what can be done to improve safety. The first thing I will say about Vision Zero is that it is a very ambitious program, and it isn't easy to achieve, and every day we are working toward these goals. This chart here shows the serious injury and fatal crashes in the city per year and by mode. In 2023, there were 15 serious injury and fatal crashes, and there were 3 fatal crashes of that 15. I want to discuss fatal crashes for a little bit, and then we'll get back to the action items. After a fatal crash, the city's Vision Zero Action Plan and Vision Zero Task Force has a quick response, which is known as the post-crash inspection. Everyone here should have received the memo that we prepared after the December crash. We do this because the Montgomery County Collision Reconstruction Unit is in charge of the investigation and prepares the crash report, but this can take weeks, even months. We do the inspection within 2 weeks of the crash and inspect for deficiencies in the pavements and concrete, street lights, pavement markings, and signage. We look to see if the signals are working as programmed and pedestrian signals are working properly. We collect this information if the street is owned and maintained by the city of Rockville or if it's owned and maintained by the state. And then we share those findings with the appropriate agencies. Additionally, the Rockville City Police Department looks for additional enforcement and education opportunities in those areas, and our Public Information Office extends outreach. For the 3 fatal crashes in 2023, the inspection findings are shown here. The most recent crash, which I'll discuss, happened on December 26th. We completed the inspection and shared the following information. One sign had been knocked over, some pavement markings were faded, pedestrian signal signs, which direct how to use the push buttons, those were faded, street lights flickered, and the northeast corner street light could have been a little bit closer to the closer to the intersection. We shared this information with the Maryland Department of Transportation State Highway Administration and with PEPCO. Also, there was a sidewalk trip hazard that was outside of the restaurant on Veers Mill, which we fixed. The Rockville City Police Department's Traffic Safety Unit conducted a traffic safety awareness campaign where they focused enforcement and education efforts on that intersection. They also held a Coffee with a Cop event at the McDonald's there to maintain visibility and increase community awareness of the crash. This intersection has come up in the past, and I want to discuss its recent history. In 2018, residents and the city raised concerns about the intersection with the state. In response, MDOT-SHA, or the Maryland Department of Transportation State Highway Administration, studied the intersection and implemented a leading pedestrian interval for crossing Veers Mill, as well as additional yield signage. In 2021, city staff submitted a request to reduce the speed limit on the segment between Edmonston Drive and Twinbrook Parkway. This request is still pending with the MDOT Office of Traffic Safety. In 2022, with guidance from the Rockville Pedestrian Advocacy Committee, we also requested the state to reevaluate this intersection. This resulted in additional improvements, including the flex post curb extensions, hardened center lines, and continental crosswalks, which you can see in the image, as well as additional signage and signal backplating. Last week, we sent up a follow-up letter to MDOT-SHA requesting timelines about our speed reduction request, timelines for addressing the deficiencies we noticed from the inspection, requesting a new speed study as part of the state's crash review study, and reevaluating a crosswalk request from November that was on Veers Mill. All right, shifting gears a little bit. The Vision Zero Action Plan is composed of 30 action items that help direct our work program. The 4 focus areas are engineering, enforcement, education, and policy. The 30 action items themselves have sub-actions, and in all, these action items seek to address multiple aspects of transportation safety, which together can help us move forward. In the narrative text of the staff report, it mentions items being in progress, complete, or ongoing. An ongoing action is something that we regularly work on, but it doesn't have an end date. So, for instance, meeting with the state, we do that every month, or every quarter, An in-progress item is something we're working on now, but it will have an end date, such as updating street standards. All action items are in the discussion section of the staff report. I'm only going to highlight a handful of items in this presentation, but you can see the staff report for the other, for all 30, So action item number 1 is a crash analysis. We analyze crashes in the city to help guide future improvements. This analysis looks at 5 years of data. Our most recent analysis includes crashes between 2017 and 2021. There were 17 fatal crashes in Rockville and 61 serious injury crashes during that time. The high injury network, the purple lines on this map, represent segments of roads that have had 4 or more serious injury or fatal crashes. In Rockville, there are 6 road segments that meet this criteria. Frederick Road, Norbeck Road, North Washington Street, Rockville Pike, Veers Mill Road, and West Montgomery Avenue. I want to note that the only city-maintained street that's in the high injury network is North Washington Street. The rest are all state-maintained roadways. The recent complete streets and separated bicycle lanes on North Washington Street are expected to reduce the number of serious injury and fatal crashes moving forward. I'm going to discuss items 4 and 6 together because they're both related to intersections. Improving crossings and unsignalized intersections, as well as improving traffic signals. Last year, we started a program to evaluate intersections and propose improvements. We've also shared intersections to improve with the state as well. Additionally, the Mayor and Council requested staff to conduct speed studies on city roads with posted limits above 35 miles per hour. We're going to incorporate this into action item number 4. The Intersection Audit and Improvement Program is a multi-year program. Each year, we identify intersections based on the number of injury crashes and then conduct an audit and implement improvements. The first round with audits occurred last year, and improvements are in progress. Those are on the left side of the table, round 1. The next round of audits and improvements are on the right, and we're moving forward with these this year. Action item 5 is related to coordinating with the state and county. In addition to the standing quarterly meeting, which is where we meet with MDOT SHA to discuss ongoing projects and offer additional roadway safety requests. We work with the state to identify projects for grants and seek their support as we raise new requests for safety improvements as needed. The first round of state intersections for safety audits and improvements is on this list here. Some of the improvements have already been completed, while others are still under review by the MDOT Office of Traffic Safety. I would note that Veers Mill and Atlantic Avenue is not included on this list because MDOT SHA at the time had completed the 2022 improvements prior to this list being shared. Another project that we've coordinated with the state is the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant project. We received $320,000 from the Federal Department of Transportation to look at 30 intersections, 20 of which are on state roadways. Similar to our Vision Zero intersection audits project, this project will fund intersection safety audits to identify intersection improvements for all modes to more safely navigate intersections in the city. Our kickoff meeting for this project is in February. Here are the remaining 10 intersections that are part of this grant program that are maintained by the state. I want to note that this is a really important collaboration with the state because we recognize the challenges of roadway safety on state roads. And this is really an opportunity for us to work with them to help increase their capacity to make roadway safety improvements. Action item 7 discusses sidewalk construction. We've created a program to identify sidewalk gaps, complete feasibility studies, design the sidewalk, and then construct. There are many sidewalk gaps in the city, and this will help us identify which ones can be reasonably built considering costs and impacts. The picture here is of one of the public meetings from last year where we go out with residents in the community and we travel up and down the block to identify those concerns and potential impacts for future sidewalks. Also, and as a heads up, the fiscal year 25 proposed CIP budget will detail how these projects are funded. There were 6 sidewalks in the first group, 4 of which were deemed feasible, which you can see here. We're moving forward on preparing engineering designs for these sidewalks. Here's the next group of sidewalks that will be studied this year. When choosing the sidewalks to study, staff consults the sidewalk prioritization policy. We're now moving into the C and D priority group sidewalks. We also, per the Mayor and Council's recommendation, chose segments along streets that don't have sidewalks on either side. So these 5 here are missing sidewalks on both sides. The next 2 items are related to work from the Rockville City Police Department. As mentioned before, the Rockville City Police Department continues to carry out enforcement and education efforts for traffic safety in the city. Additionally, when Public Works receives traffic safety concerns, for example, someone having concerns related to speeding or motorists not yielding, we will also share this information with the police department, requesting additional enforcement in those areas. Oops. Speed cameras. There are 17 speed cameras in the city in total. This includes 10 portable camera units, 6 fixed pole units, and 1 mobile van. Additionally, there are 10 red light cameras. Last year, all of the cameras were updated to the newest technology. There's also a new contract signed in November of 2022. As a reminder, there are state laws that govern where cameras can be placed. This includes school zones and residential areas, and roadways can't have a maximum speed limit above 35 miles per hour. In the city, many cameras are rotated every 3 to 4 weeks, and the portable camera schedule is posted online 1 week in advance. The Public Information Office has prepared multiple outreach strategies. This includes an overarching Vision Zero communication plan that we put in place in 2022. Last year, there was also the Pedestrian Master Plan outreach plan, and the Town Center Bike Lanes outreach plan, which is being executed right now. The Public Information Office works to do proactive outreach about safety for all modes of transportation, including tips aimed at pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists. Provide updates about progress on Vision Zero related transportation improvement projects, messaging in response to current events, including crashes resulting in traffic fatalities or serious injuries. And there are some new videos about the town center bicycle lanes, describing the benefits of the facilities and tips for use by motorists, pedestrians, and bicyclists. For Safe Routes to School every year, participating schools can reach out to us for giveaways for students who participate in Walk and Bike to School Day. We also just submitted a grant application to the National Safety Council's Community Traffic Safety Grants Program. Our proposed project is to develop Safe Routes to School maps for each of the city's elementary schools. The award announcement is in the spring, so we'll see where that goes. Action item 23 is related to updating policies and laws that impact safe transportation. The Pedestrian Master Plan also recommends updating several different policies. We've provided initial comments to the planning staff regarding the zoning ordinance rewrite. And we also want to include an update to the comprehensive transportation review at the same time as the zoning ordinance project moves forward. Because the comprehensive transportation review is designed for development applicants and is very closely tied to zoning. Also, one of the first pedestrian policies we'll review is the synthesis of pedestrian policies. This is part of the Pedestrian Master Plan implementation. So switching gears again, I want to talk about the bicycle and pedestrian master plans. As a background, the Bikeway Master Plan was adopted in 2017. It has a variety of recommendations. These include where new bicycling facilities should go, as well as other considerations that should be made related to bicycling. The Rockville Bicycle Advisory Committee has been instrumental not only in reviewing the plan before it was approved, but also providing guidance for its implementation. They have supported our efforts to seek grants, provide comments on alternatives, and they ride their bicycles in the community to show everyone that it can be done. Some recently completed and in-progress projects include getting pedestrian and bicycle counters to help track bicycle use, completing the Scott Veers Drive shared use path feasibility study, and ongoing projects to prepare designs for a shared use path on Monroe Street and Fleet Street. There's also a recently completed separated bicycle lanes in Town Center. And we're also looking at adding bicycle lanes to extend this network to Martin's Lane, providing a safer ride for families going to and from Town Center or to and from the Rockville Swim and Fitness Center. And the next bike lane study and design is for East Jefferson Street and Halpine Road. These projects are considered in master plans, and RBAC has provided feedback on their prioritization. Up next is the newest plan, the Pedestrian Master Plan. Similar to the Vision Zero Action Plan, this master plan is designed around action items, which guide our work program. They comprehensively seek to improve walking and rolling for everyone in Rockville. This includes building new sidewalks or shared use paths, updating policies which guide our pedestrian practices, and developing new programs for making pedestrian improvements. So the first thing we're preparing is an implementation strategy. This looks at all 46 action items and proposes how to best use staff resources to implement the plan. While the strategy is still in draft, we've started working on policy updates for the comprehensive transportation review and reviewing the synthesis of pedestrian policies. We're also moving ahead on projects that will help improve multimodal access. This includes the Twin Brooks Safe Routes to School and transit access improvements, which include evaluating 7 sidewalk gaps and 8 intersections in the neighborhood. This also includes Complete Streets projects for Manatee Street and North Stone Street Avenue to evaluate how to best calm traffic and provide facilities for everyone. Lastly, we want to talk about grants. We try our best every year to seek out grants to help fund our work program, and we plan to continue to do so this year as well. The list on the slide here includes projects that are currently ongoing or are about to be initiated that were funded in part by grants. From this list here, only the Kim Lampier Maryland Bikeways program comes directly from the state and may be impacted by the state transportation budget this year. The Transportation Alternatives Program and Safe Streets and Roads for All program are funded by the federal government, and the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments programs, which are the Transportation Land Use Connection Program and the Regional Roadway Safety Programs, are funded by the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments. With that, I'm done. So thank you so much. I'm happy to discuss this, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Excellent report. Colleagues, who would like to go first? Councilmember Van Grack.
I just have two quick questions. One, I know that you've periodically, including, I think, the fall of last year, had public meetings for public to kind of learn more about it and maybe discuss some of the issues and thoughts. And I wanted to know whether you're planning any of those in the near future or coming up. So that was my first question. Is there anything like that coming up for the public?
Are you referencing last year the public meetings that were related to the pedestrian master plan?
No, I'm actually Vision Zero.
We had a town
town
hall.
hall.
Yeah,
Oh.
we did a couple of town halls, one on public safety as well as one on Vision Zero. We are in discussions about our community outreach and engagement plan. I know several of us are interested in continuing those kinds of town halls as well as walking town meetings.
Sure. Yes. So I completely forgot about that. Yeah. So a lot of the projects within Vision Zero that are related. So the sidewalks is a good example. The intersections is a good example. Where as we are moving forward with those projects, we'll reach out to those communities to make sure that they're aware of the ongoing work we're doing. But if the mayor and council is interested in another town hall, I'm sure we could discuss it.
Okay. And the other question I had is, I love kind of your infrastructure ideas and a lot of the details with regard to the sidewalks, the intersections, the streets. But I noticed just this past week, there was a number of instances within the city where we had sidewalk and pedestrian access and bike access that were snowed over and iced over. And I witnessed literally pedestrians walking in the middle of the street. Is there some type of initiative that we're going to be working on as part of Vision Zero that, aside from the infrastructure issue, the other parts within the city that we can help during times like this when we have snow and ice or, you know, large scale rain to potentially help with pedestrian access? Because if we've got people, even if we've got the infrastructure and they're walking on the street, we've got on the verge of accidents, and we're going to reduce our goals that we have for Vision Zero.
Councilmember, the snow issue is a tough nut to crack. I covered in the city manager's report the expectations of how long residents, property owners have to clear it, that area. It's impossible for everybody to do it, but code enforcement does go out and give reminders to residents who need to clear that after snow is done. So, and the city does handle certain streets.
So I was specifically referring to city-maintained sidewalks, like along Wooten Parkway, where there isn't a resident, but it would be the city's obligation to work for it. So that's what I was referring to, not
Yes,
the residential.
and I know they were out there today, and they cleared that area. So we do have a list, and of course, as you know, it takes a while to get through the list. We can get, the sidewalks are principally done by recreation parks. So if we see some of them, we can get them, but they report after the storm how quickly they can get cleared of those items. So additionally, we have a new requirement to clear those bike lanes on North Washington Street. If you look on North Washington Street there, 5 foot wide, and we had to get a new piece of equipment out there to do it. And so there's a lot of challenges behind those tight spaces.
And so I just want to be clear, I'm not specifically clear. I know that at least in this past week, the city and Public Works, they did a fantastic job. That being said, I guess my point is we could always do better.
Absolutely.
And as part of Vision Zero, that might be an avenue for us to, whether it's funding or personnel priorities, work to make it better. But I know that the staff did a fantastic job. It's just an avenue to do better. If we're looking at zero, that's just an avenue of improvement.
As a matter of fact, if you look on state roads, sidewalks on state roads that do not abut residential properties or commercial properties, there are a few that are not getting done. And we were just talking about one of those today, because in the end, we really don't expect State Highway to get out here and do it. So you're correct. We got to get them, prioritize them, and get them out. And I think Recreation Parks has a prioritized list, but we will continue to work on it. And you're correct, we can always do better.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'll just note I did report in the area because I heard from a resident, particularly along state highways, some of the businesses still needed to plow the sidewalks, and I know that people reported seeing people fall. So I do think it's something where we need to have a grid and alerts so that we know who's outstanding and if they're repeat offenders, that we can go and address that issue. So thank you very much. on the note of sidewalks, I was just gonna remember previous budget discussions where if we were following the normal pace, we were gonna take potentially 100 years to get all our sidewalks done. I know that we have accelerated that in previous budgets, but where do you stand on where we're missing segments of sidewalks? What is it looking like now in terms of the trajectory to get those done? And I will just also note, Safe Routes to School is great. I want to see more schools getting involved in that. And also that particular site also advocates for safe routes to parks. So it's another area that we need to make that accessible to people.
So as part of the fiscal year 25 budget, we're proposing changes to help kind of accelerate our sidewalks. We currently have, I think it's just over 51 miles of sidewalks that are undone. Although if we start looking at it, and one of the things we've started doing is identifying feasible and unfeasible sidewalks, which is part of this program, but also looking at where streets have one sidewalk already, and then kind of prioritizing streets that have 0 sidewalks. And if we look at that, then it's 27 miles of sidewalks that don't have, of streets that don't have sidewalks on either side.
Thank you. I look forward to that update. That's a lot of miles. Colleagues, Councilmember Fulton.
I have one question that follows on to that. The feasibility study of the sidewalks. We just talked about like the budget constraints, and that's always going to be there. But I understand the feasibility question to be different. And does that mean that it would result in an area, for example, very close to an elementary school with no sidewalk on either side, being deemed infeasible regardless of budget?
Yeah, I can talk about this for a little bit. As you know, I mean, Rockville is not a new city, so we have a lot of streets that have been built a long time ago. And wherever you don't have a sidewalk, the question is, do we have a space for the sidewalk or not? And it's not just the space, if it's available or not. This new sidewalk gonna take place of maybe some trees are already there, maybe some utility poles are there, maybe some people are parking there, maybe some people are putting their landscape there already. And of course, a lot of residents feel that this is a part of my property, which sometimes they don't know where is the right-of-way line. So we, as you see, we do our sidewalks on 3 phases. The first phase is the feasibility. So we start to go first and try to see first there is a space for it or not. And then we go and walk with the block, and we bring the residents who live on the street and tell them, we want to put sidewalk, you put on this side or this side. And when we say it's not feasible, I think everything is feasible, but it has a price. It's either people have to agree with what we are doing, because believe it or not, half of the battle at least is that residents do not want sidewalks on their street. Some people feel that's not safe because now people are gonna walk in front of their house. Some people feel that, oh, we're gonna now shovel snow. We did not do this for years, so why do we have to do it? So honestly, we get resistance from residents to put sidewalk. So let's put this on the side and assume that residents are supporting the sidewalk. Now we have to see, do we have space for it or not? A lot of time we don't even have curb and gutter. And in this case, sometimes the sidewalks start to be very expensive because we have to put a drainage system that did not exist. So money can be an issue, utility poles, trees. So like I said, anything can be done, but are we and the residents and the mayor and council are willing to remove trees, relocate utility poles, remove landscaping, eliminate parking in some cases? So that's why we do the feasibility study to see, are we gonna be able to meet all of those challenges and the conflicts? And that's why we did 6 sidewalks last year. We did feasibility study. We ended up choosing 4 of them moving forward, and 2 did not move forward. Money is totally a different issue, and I think we can talk about it probably during the budget, because the sidewalk now with linear foot can be anywhere between $300 and $600 a foot. And if you do the calculations, and if we go with our program that we are trying to achieve even 1,000 foot a year, that would be, we're talking about $800,000, $1 million a year, and that's probably something would be hard to put in our budget. So So that's all the challenges we have. Like I said, feasible does not mean it's impossible to do. It's just, are we going to be able to meet those challenges and find this balance between the restraints of the right of way, the residents, the issues of the utilities and all this, the money, and then we can go forward with it or not.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Councilmember Larry.
I have a lot of questions, but I will only take up, I don't know, next 20 minutes? No, I can. I will skim through them. Thank you for answering. I submitted a lot of questions to you all, and I appreciated the answers for the most part that I received, including some of the background information, since some of us had never seen some of that before, which is exciting. I think I'll probably just go very quickly to a couple of points more so, because I think some of these things have been a problem since before our PAC, the Rockville Pedestrian Advocacy Committee, was born. Under action item 11, explore expanding automated enforcement. I found that interesting and kind of interesting in terms of action item number 24, which is ensuring fairness and equality through Vision Zero projects. Because if we're looking at red light cameras, and I just happened to go to the city map for it, which was updated on October 10th, 2023, red light camera locations. There is only one on the east side of the city, and that's at Park Road and Stone Street, which ostensibly is because that's closer to town center. However, you have a light close to a high school along Baltimore Road, Baltimore and Twinbrook Parkway, which would be a natural place that you would not want to see people running that red light. And so why that's not being taken into account. I mean, it's just kind of stark when you look at all the little symbols on here, right? That you have a whole, there's not a lot of equity there. I think that was my biggest challenge with all the answers that you gave me back to my questions, that wanting more detail and regarding geographic equity in basic transportation transit safety should be a little bit more than a couple sentences, frankly. And it should be akin to what the Environment Commission did, which is having an actual equity plan so that you look at every single issue along the way through that lens. So that when you're talking about sidewalk prioritization, that the feasibility should be seen through the lens of where are we not doing sidewalks, where are we not putting in sidewalks, where are we skipping it on design because, the traditional sidewalk model doesn't work for a particular tree. Well, then that's going to be a different solution, right? And we saw on some roads where they moved utility poles lately on Ardennes, that they could move the utility pole, and they made the adaptation to be able to continue the sidewalk. So we know it's possible, right? And like you said, it should be considered. It's feasible, and we should consider it, and I think we should move forward. But in terms of equity, and I do believe this is still the issue, and I know I've mentioned it before, but it's still the case that there's only 2 areas in the city where there are metal railings in a median that should be a pedestrian refuge. So medians should be a place that, God forbid, a car, goes way too fast, almost hits a pedestrian. Pedestrians should be able to use a median as a safe place of refuge. So there are steel railings on 2 city-maintained roads, and they're both on the east side of the city. That's an equity issue, and that's a problem, and they're still in place, and I personally have brought up this issue several times. And so I'm hopeful that going forward, that when asking about geographic equity, when we're looking at some basic safety measures, that we're looking at the city as a whole and applying that lens and everything being equitable, because we do know the communities that need it most. to my last point, I'd like to talk a little bit about, and I know that the PIO office also played a role in the comprehensive outreach strategy. And this will be my last thing, and then I promise, Madam Mayor, I'll stop talking. I was wondering about what a completed strategy for outreach looks like, and I mentioned outreach when we had the BRT conversation, and kind of getting to that point that a communications plan is not an outreach strategy. It's very different. Communication is passive, and our PIO's office does a tremendous job with communication. But when and literally outreach is in my professional title, outreach is an active reaching out into a community and talking to people. And so I think what we're looking at is two different things. I think our communication strategy is spot on, tremendous. Now we have to elevate it to the next level, and how are we doing outreach? Again, and I didn't mean to do this on purpose, but the Environment Commission is another great example of outreach, is tabling at the farmer's market and how many touches and how many people that you've engaged and pulled into the conversation. And I think that that's different, and I think that will actually, we'll save a lot of lives that way. So I'm hopeful going forward that we can look at putting red light cameras equitably across the city. We know that it shouldn't be, we want people to change behavior over time, and I know that we're not going to get to that point if we're not even penalizing people who are doing the wrong thing, because they're doing it in neighborhoods across the city. So we should be looking at it across the city. So that is my immediate feedback. But I will say, full disclosure, I have worked with Mr. Barnett Woods through RPAC for a very long time. I've always appreciated it, always. And I absolutely love, I know some of my colleagues here are like project management nerds, your timetable and your Gantt chart essentially was a thing of beauty, and I wish that that could be replicated everywhere to kind of see where all these different action plans and strategies, where we are and how we can get there even faster. So thank you, Mr. Barnett Woods.
Thank you. Do you have anything you want to share? I know that was a lot.
Well, thanks for your input. We are looking at our sidewalks project and our intersection. As you know, we are, for intersection, for example, we are looking at all intersections that the city maintain, which we have the signalized one. We have 48 of them. They're all over the city. So we have a program to go through all of them and inspect them and study them and audit them to make sure that they are up to date and up to safety measures. So everywhere in the city, there will be east, west, it does not matter. For our sidewalk project, the same thing. If you look at our map or our projects, you'll see them. Sorry. You'll see them all over the city. We actually have a grant, a big grant that we are studying feasibility study for sidewalks and intersection only on the east side of the city. So I think it's a very good point. Speaking about this red light camera and speed cameras, they're all operated and maintained by this city Rockville police. So I cannot speak for that, but my understanding that they put the cameras where they have the most violations based on the tickets that they issued in the past. Same with speeding, and they have mobile devices that they move from one location to another for speed cameras. So I don't know if they want to speak more about that, but that's for the speed cameras and the red light cameras.
Thank you. I'll just note, just for folks who are interested, if you were to go to the city website and put City of Rockville, red light cameras or speed cameras, you can pull up a sheet that has each. So I know that you spoke about the red light cameras. There is also one for speed light cameras, and it shows where they moved around. Thank you. Councilmember Jackson and then Councilmember Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just want to say thanks to your department because, you know, back when I was president of the HOA, there was an accident, a crash that occurred at Picard and Gaither. I'm sure you're familiar with it. And I just want to say, your staff cooperated with the HOA, and you made changes, and changes to the crosswalks, which came about from engagement with the community. So my experience, at least, was that there was a crash, an incident, and they responded to community engagement. And also, they made pedestrian changes, but they also did enforcement. And we got in speed cameras, we got additional enforcement. So it can work. And I just want to say, at least from my experience, it was really a wonderful experience, and I think that your staff should be commended, because I think we made a little bit of a difference. We're not there yet, but obviously, but we're making progress, so thank you.
Thank you. And I recall last year we did the town hall. We actually also previously reinitiated and increased outreach. I know the King Farm Citizens Assembly previously had not had staff attending, and we, as mayor and council and staff, worked together with the community to get that to happen. We just want to make sure we're doing that across the city. And perhaps even when there are major crashes like this, maybe we could do, in addition to the crash analysis, a walking town hall, so we can walk with people and see what they're experiencing firsthand. And I know you have done that in some sections, and that would be appreciated in other areas as well. I saw Councilmember Shaw as well as Councilmember Miles.
Well, thank you for your presentation and all the work that you're doing. And also thank you for the outreach plan that you sent. It would be good to incorporate the town hall that we talked about, as well as some more in-person events. It looks like, for the most part, they're digital, like web, social media, Engage Rockville. So for the most part, it's digital and social media. Also, with that, we can get data and analytics. So it would be good for the next update to include how many people you're reaching through engagement and all these, the tactics that you have here. But thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Miles.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Echo the thanks to you, Mr. Barnett Woods, for all your work, as well as staff, Dr. Shalfie, everybody. Just phenomenal. We're light years ahead of where we were years ago. It's thanks to all you all's hard work. Thank you all for the replies to my questions that I asked prior to. I mean, I still, the only one I take, I wouldn't say issue with, but there's this notion of this bus stop tracking standard set at 150 feet of a marked crosswalk. And I do understand the rationale that was given. I just think that's a far distance, like half a football field. But I do take the explanation. I just want to echo, or just specifically thank you all for adding the eastern segment of Carr Avenue to the round 2 sidewalk study. I know that's many residents on that street in particular, as it abuts a school, we're really concerned that they'd lack the sidewalks. So thanks for including it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Jackson.
Sorry, I just forgot one thing. We're talking about schools and making it better for children to bike or walk, and it's just a little thing, but up by the Callahan Memorial Walkway or Bikeway, when you go and you're biking to College Gardens, you go up the street and you turn right and you go to Yale. Well, there's a really big hill right there, and it's a sharp turn. It's difficult to navigate for children and for people with mobility issues. So I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe that's an area that we could study and do something about to make that a little bit easier for people to navigate, and for children especially to be able to go so they can bike to school safely. Thank you.
Councilman, I just want to let you know the connection between the Carl Hen Millennium Trail and Yale. That is one of the identified shared use path segments for study in our pedestrian master plan. So we're working on that.
Thank you. I have a couple quick questions, and I see that you have some as well, Councilman Valeri. I'll try to do quick hits. One is the ADA inclusion. Just want to make sure that we are really calling that out in future Vision Zero updates in terms of the progress we're making. I know that's something we worked very hard to add and enhance in the pedestrian master plan. I wanted to also note, in regards to the tragic fatality that occurred on Veers Mill and Atlantic, I spent a lot of time there just observing, walking across, just trying to experience what it would be like to walk that street on a dark, rainy, cold night. And I observed that the time to cross is very short for that kind of road. It's about 30 seconds. And when you do cross, you've got people turning left and right, and it's a very, very busy time. And there's no real refuge. So my question is there a possibility to extend that time? And also, if people have to wait 3 minutes sometimes to be able to cross, and it's raining and cold, and they're trying to get groceries or just catch the bus, that might have an impact on potential pedestrian fatalities and crashes, because in real life, yes, maybe if someone is not walking on the walk signal, but the experience of that person, it also matters too, right? And so I wanted to look at it through that lens of what that experience is of people who are just trying to get across and navigate the city. And then I wanted to note, particularly with this related fatal crash, on the Vision Zero page, staff did put a report that outlined everything that we heard today, and I know that they're going to try to do that going forward, and I appreciate all the work that you all are doing and staying on the State Highway Administration. I know it takes time. Speed cameras, I was just wondering if we have plans for a speed camera near some of the state roads. I know that Richmond Montgomery is one area, for example. There could be others, but I haven't really seen speed cameras that much on 355. I know that part of it is a speed issue, but I just want to know what your plans are for that.
Sure. So I'll respond in reverse. Regarding the speed cameras on state roads, we'll have to follow up with the Rockville City Police Department regarding where they place the cameras, either it's the portable ones or a future camera for expansion. So we'll check with them. The fatal crash memo, yes, moving forward, after fatal crashes, when we do our inspection, we'll put the memos on the Vision Zero webpage. Regarding time to cross Veers Mill, we sent a letter to MDOT SHA last week that asked them to follow up on items from the inspection. As part of that, we also looked at the signal timing for pedestrians crossing, and then we recommended that they make it a little bit longer, as well as looking at other improvements that would help address the concern if you miss the light and you have to go through a whole cycle. And then for ADA inclusion, yes, most definitely in future updates, we'll be sure to include that as part of the memo.
Thank you. And then the last two things are, I know that the community was very excited about Stone Street potentially moving forward in the future. Similarly, people always want more crosswalks, just paint, and maybe that's not as expensive as actually constructing a sidewalk, but does help to make people feel safer. So I know that there are a couple that you evaluate, and sometimes you say yes and sometimes no, but I think we should try to do more of the crosswalks. It is a simple thing when possible to get done to support safety.
Thank you. And we are preparing a new crosswalk or pedestrian crossing guidelines, which is an ongoing project and should be completed in June. And it would provide new criteria for not only the placement of crosswalks, but also kind of the ancillary improvements to help making crossing safer.
And last thing, there's many areas of the city that could use them, but I recently heard people noting in the Woodley Gardens community, just there's a curve where you're on Nelson, and people often go from the park to the shopping center, and I've heard a request for flashing lights just to make it more obvious when someone is crossing to watch out for them. I know there are other parts of the city who would like that as well. So I just wanted to flag that as an area for us to look at. Thank you. Councilmember Larry.
I thought of two things when we were all, when I was listening to my colleagues. I think one of the struggles with Vision Zero, one of the struggles with the collision data is that when we talk about serious injury or a fatality, we're talking about on scene versus down the road. So, oftentimes we don't see if an individual has passed away from injuries. If there's a serious injury on site, the loop is not always. We don't circle back on it. There, for instance, there was one individual, a young woman, who was struck by a car on 355, serious injury on site, and then I believe it was a month later when she passed away. So, but that was just being able to get that information. So sometimes I think when we do see some of the tables and so forth, we don't get a sense of, if this is, kind of where the story ended. Pardon the pun. But I think that's important to keep in mind too, because it is collisions with no serious injury or no fatality. If you have a volume high enough, it's going to be a predictor of possibly something worse coming down the road, and we shouldn't wait for that data. We should get ahead of it and just looking at generally the collision data, right? Because if we are only focused on where serious injury has occurred and not high volume of existing collisions, then we may be missing an opportunity to, again, be proactive rather than reactive. I think we've done some tremendous stuff as a city, being reactive to tragedies, but I would love to see, and I know it's hard to quantify, I would love to see some more proactive work. So I just wanted to flag that also for my colleagues as well. But I'm going to end with my favorite topic, which is parking lots. One of the biggest categories when I was still active in a different role with RPAC was collisions, pedestrians, and bicyclists getting struck in parking lots and it resulting in injury. And so, is that kind of out there for Vision Zero consideration? What can and cannot be done, and how do you see that issue in particular moving forward?
Sure. So regarding your first point, regarding crash data, it's a really great point that you've brought up. There are times using the ACRES, the Automated Crash Reporting System, which is from the Maryland State Police, they'll update crashes. And so one of the reasons why, for instance, our analysis uses data that's 2017 to 2021 is that there's an opportunity to make corrections if needed. Additionally, as for some of the projects that we do, so for instance, our intersection audits, we go beyond just looking at the serious and fatal injuries, and we've expanded it to be fatal injuries, serious injuries, and all injury crashes so that we can expand that data set much greater, so we can collect those locations where maybe they haven't had a fatal crash, but they've had several crashes. And then when we're actually doing the analysis for the audit, we look at all of the crashes. And so a good example is on Wooten Parkway and Fleet Street, which we studied last year, and improvements are ongoing. It didn't have a fatal crash, but we did notice that in the 3 years of data that was studied for that incident, there were 7 left turn crashes that, some were only property damage crashes. But that's certainly an indicator of something else. And so we're going forward for improvements there. Regarding parking lots, this is a trickier issue. Certainly there are things we've done, and some of the comments that we've provided for the zoning ordinance update are to provide standards and regulations for the way the parking lot is designed to provide that kind of pedestrian connection from the public right-of-way to the entrance. So a good example is the giant supermarket that's on 355 near North Washington Street. So that style of development, of course, that doesn't help for developments that have been already built and existing, and that's something that we recognize and we're working on to see what we can do.
Thank you. So lastly, when will we hear another update? I know that there was a discussion we were having. Will it be twice a year now?
Twice a year now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Appreciate both of you as employees and professionals, and we also, again, congratulations on Municipal Employee of the Year, and thank you to Ms. El-Shafi for helping to nominate. We are very proud of the work we're doing, and we're going to continue to improve in this area. Thank you.
Thank you very much.